Am I the a-hole for publicly humiliating my dad's mistress after she tried to call herself my mom? I, 21F, am currently the villain in a family drama that feels like it was ripped out of a scripted reality show, but the consequences are very real. I have been called vile, cruel, unhinged, and ungrateful by almost every member of my father's side of the family. I need to know if I actually went too far, or if I am just the only person in this family with the balls to speak the truth. To understand the explosion at the park, you have to understand the slow-burn destruction of my home life. My father, 67M, is a powerful businessman. He comes from a very wealthy, old-money family where image is the only currency that matters. Growing up, our house was a mausoleum. My parents were married for over 30 years, but for 20 of those, they were begrudging roommates. There was no love in that house. My father treated my mother, 61F, like a piece of furniture, something that was supposed to be there, look nice for guests, and not make any noise. He was emotionally distant, cold, and hypercritical. My mother, in turn, became a shadow of herself. They fought constantly, but it wasn't passionate fighting. It was cold, clinical, and soul-crushing. I was the one caught in the crossfire. As a kid, I didn't have the words to express the anxiety I felt every time I heard my father's car pull into the driveway. I started eating. It was my only comfort. I would wait until they were distracted by another argument and sneak into the kitchen, taking liters of soda and bags of snacks back to my room. I ate until the physical pain of a full stomach silenced the mental pain of the screaming downstairs. By the time I was 18, the chronic stress and the terrible diet had given me gout. I was a teenage girl with a disease associated with Victorian royalty because my father's business was more important than being a decent human being. While I was away at college in another country, a move I made specifically to escape the toxicity, the roommate arrangement finally died. My father was caught in a long-term affair with a 24-year-old girl. This isn't just a girl he met at a club. She is 3 years older than me. The divorce happened this year. It was fast, it was messy, and it was devastating for my mother. But my father didn't care. He had a new life. Exactly 1 month, to the day, after the divorce was finalized, he married the mistress. He didn't even wait for the dust to settle. He moved her into the house my mother had spent decades decorating, and he expected me to just accept it. I went no contact immediately. I hated him for what he did to my mom, but I also hated him for the proxy disrespect to me. By choosing someone my age, he was telling me that my mother, and by extension, the family he built with her, was disposable. I came back to my home country last week. I didn't tell him I was coming, but because of his business connections, he found out the moment I checked in at the airport. For 2 days, my phone was not mine. It was a constant stream of notifications. He sent dozens of texts. Some were loving, fatherly guilt trips. I miss my daughter. Let's put the past behind us. Others were demands. You are back in the country, and you haven't called your father. This is a disgrace to the family name. But the ones that made my blood boil were about the wife. He kept insisting that I meet her. He called her my stepmom. He said she had big plans for us to bond. The idea of this 24-year-old girl, who was probably playing with dolls when I was born, trying to mother me was an insult I couldn't stomach. I finally agreed to meet them on Thursday at a local park. I told myself I would go, tell them to leave me alone and walk away. I wanted a public place, so he couldn't cause a scene. I was incredibly wrong about how that would go. I arrived at the park around 3 p.m. I saw them sitting on a bench near the walking trail. My father looked as smug and polished as ever. The mistress was sitting next to him, dressed in what I can only describe as expensive trophy wife attire. She had a designer bag on her lap and was wearing a wedding ring that probably cost more than my college tuition. I sat down across from them. I didn't say hello. I didn't smile. "Why haven't you been answering?" my father started. He didn't even ask how I was. He went straight to the lecture. "It hurt me, Name. It hurt your mom, too. She's been so excited to meet you." "She's not my mom," I said, my voice cold. "I'm here to tell you that I want no relationship with you. You cheated. You lied. You threw mom away like she was nothing. I don't respect you, and I certainly don't respect your wife." The argument escalated quickly. My father started doing what he always does, rewriting history. He claimed my mother was a bad wife, that she was emotionally cold, and that he was trapped for 30 years. While he was disparaging the woman who raised me, the mistress sat there with this sickening smirk. Every time my father said something cruel about my mom, she would giggle. She would nod her head and say things like, "It's okay, honey. She just didn't understand you like I do." I felt the gout in my foot start to throb. The stress was physically manifesting in my body again, and I realized I wasn't that scared little girl anymore. I was an adult, and I didn't have to take this. The mistress then did the unthinkable. She stood up, smoothed her dress, and looked at me with this patronizing, mature expression. "You really have no right to talk to your father this way," she said. Her voice was high-pitched and forced. "I am his wife now. By marriage, I am your mom. I expect you to respect that title. I want us to be a family, but you need to learn your place and stop being so disrespectful to the man who pays for your life." The man who pays for your life comment was the final straw. I stood up, and I didn't care that people were watching. I didn't care that we were in a decent park. "You must be joking," I said, my voice loud enough to stop a jogger in their tracks. "How the hell are you going to parent a 21-year-old when you are 24? You were in middle school when I was in high school. You aren't my mother. You're a little homewrecker who saw a wealthy old man and decided to secure a paycheck." Her jaw dropped. My father started to stand up, his face turning a dark, dangerous shade of red. "Why don't you be a good little bitch, stay at home like a trophy wife, and keep my mother's name out of your mouth?" I yelled. "You're a barista he picked up at a coffee shop because he's having a pathetic midlife crisis at nearly 70 years old. You aren't a mom. You're a mistake with a ring." She didn't just cry. She wailed. It was a loud, dramatic, sobbing performance. She collapsed back onto the bench, hiding her face in her hands. My father looked like he wanted to hit me, but instead, he grabbed her and started comforting her, shouting that I was a monster and vile. "I am ashamed you are my daughter," he screamed as they walked away. "The feeling is mutual," I shouted back. I ran to my car, shaking so hard I could barely put the key in the ignition. I drove away with my heart hammering, feeling a mix of absolute terror and the most intense relief I've ever felt in my life. This didn't end at the park. My father sent me a barrage of texts calling me cruel and vindictive. He claimed that the mistress was traumatized and that she had only ever wanted a relationship with me. I replied by telling him that I don't respect her, I don't respect him, and that I never want to see either of them again. I blocked him. Then the mistress got my number. I assume he gave it to her. She sent me a series of texts that were absolutely unhinged. She tried to discipline me through text, telling me that I shouldn't disrespect my elders and that I should know my place in the family hierarchy. She then went on to insult my mother, calling her a bad wife and a failed mother who didn't know how to keep a man like my father happy. She then tried to frame their relationship as an epic love story. She told me they met when she was 19. She was working as a barista, and he was the wealthy, sophisticated man who swept her off her feet. She tried to tell it like it was a fairy tale. Personally, I think it's weird as fuck. He was 62, and she was a teenager. That's not a love story, it's a predatory midlife crisis. I blocked her immediately. I've since had to block several aunts and cousins who have messaged me saying I was too harsh and that I publicly humiliated her. They say that by yelling at her in the park, I made our family look low class. I don't care about being low class. I care about the fact that my mother was treated like garbage for 30 years, and this 24-year-old girl thinks she can step into her shoes and parent me. My mother is proud of me for standing up for her, but she's also terrified. She knows how my father is. He uses money as a weapon, and she's worried he'll try to cut me off or ruin my reputation further. I'm currently staying in a hotel, trying to figure out my next move. So, Reddit, I have to ask, am I the a-hole? Did I go too far with the barista and trophy wife comments? Was the public humiliation unnecessary, or was it the only way to get them to finally leave me alone? I'm sitting here looking at the block list on my phone, wondering if I just blew up my entire life, or if I finally started living it. Update. I didn't think it could get worse after the park. I truly believed that confrontation would be the end of it, that once I said everything out loud, once the ugly truth was finally spoken, they would leave me alone. I underestimated how deeply my father needs control and how far he's willing to go when someone refuses to play their assigned role. I'm still in a hotel, still not sleeping properly, and still jumping every time my phone lights up, even though almost everyone is blocked. The last few days have forced me to see my family for who they actually are, not who I kept hoping they might become if I just explained myself better. After I blocked my father and his wife, the messages didn't stop. They just came through other people. The family turns. It started with my aunt, my father's older sister. She sent a long message about how disappointed she was in me. She said that regardless of what my father had done, I had embarrassed the family name, and that yelling in public was unacceptable behavior for a young woman. She didn't ask if I was okay. She didn't mention my mother once. The entire message was about optics. Then came cousins. Some were subtle, asking if I was mentally okay, or suggesting that I might want to apologize to keep the peace. Others were more aggressive, telling me I was cruel, jealous, and bitter. One of them said something that stuck with me. "You should be grateful he still wants you in his life after how you behaved." That sentence clarified everything. In this family, love is conditional. It's something you earn by being quiet, obedient, and convenient. The moment you disrupt the image, you're expendable. My father's wife tried again, too. She used a different number. The tone this time was calmer, more calculated. She said she understood that I was emotional, but that my outburst was inappropriate and that my father was deeply hurt. She suggested we meet privately so she could help mend things. I didn't respond. I blocked the number immediately. I realized that engaging with her at all, even to defend myself, only validated her belief that she had authority over me. That didn't stop her. I later found out from a cousin that she'd been telling people I was unstable and obsessed with her, that I couldn't handle seeing my father happy, that I was lashing out because I was jealous. The irony of being accused of jealousy by a woman who married a man old enough to be her grandfather wasn't lost on me, but I also understood the strategy. If I'm framed as irrational, then my words don't matter. My pain doesn't matter. My boundaries don't matter. My father escalates. 2 nights after the park incident, my father emailed me. I hadn't blocked his email yet because part of me still wanted proof, documentation of who he really is. The email wasn't angry. That was what made it worse. He wrote about how disappointed he was in me, how I had chosen bitterness over family, and how he had done everything for me growing up. He listed expenses, tuition, housing, medical bills. He framed them not as parental responsibility, but as favors I owed him for. Then he dropped the real message. He said that if I continued to slander his wife and refuse reconciliation, he would reconsider his financial support. He reminded me that my education, my connections, and my future opportunities were tied to him. He didn't explicitly threaten me, but he didn't have to. That's how my father operates. He doesn't yell unless he's already lost. He applies pressure quietly, surgically, until you fold. I forwarded the email to myself and then blocked him. That was the moment it became real. Going no contact with a wealthy, controlling parent isn't just emotional, it's logistical. It's terrifying. It means accepting that safety nets can disappear overnight, not because you did something wrong, but because you refuse to submit. My mother's fear. My mom has been my anchor through all of this, but I can see how scared she is. She keeps asking if I'm safe. She asks if anyone has followed me. She asks if I want to stay with her, but I know she's afraid my father would show up or use it against her somehow. She told me something I didn't know. During the divorce, my father made it very clear, without ever putting it in writing, that if she caused problems, he would make her life difficult. Financially, socially, legally. She believes that my confrontation triggered something in him, not because he felt guilt, but because he lost control of the narrative. For the first time, I understood why she stayed quiet for so long. It wasn't weakness. It was survival. She told me she was proud of me, but she also begged me to be careful. That broke my heart more than anything else. The reality sets in. I've replayed the park confrontation over and over. I've examined every word I said. I won't pretend it was kind. It wasn't meant to be. I was angry, hurt, and pushed past my limit. I wanted them to stop. I wanted the rewriting of my childhood, my mother, and my reality to end. Do I wish it hadn't happened in public? Sometimes. Mostly because it gave them a tool to use against me. But I also know this. If I had stayed calm, quiet, and polite, nothing would have changed. They would still be calling, still pushing, still demanding access to me while denying accountability. The truth is, the humiliation wasn't the goal. The goal was finality. And for all the fallout, it worked. My father hasn't contacted me again directly. His wife hasn't tried from another number. The family messaging has slowed. The silence now feels different. Not heavy, but distant. I'm grieving, though. Not the man my father is, but the father I kept hoping he might become. I'm grieving the illusion of family. The idea that blood means protection instead of leverage. I don't know what my future looks like yet. I may lose financial support. I may lose connections. I may have to rebuild parts of my life without the privilege I grew up with. But for the first time, those things feel less terrifying than going back. Because going back would mean swallowing everything I know to be true. So, yes, I said harsh things. Yes, I humiliated her. But I was reacting to years of silence, disrespect, and control. I was reacting to a woman barely older than me trying to erase my mother and claim authority she never earned. I was reacting to a father who thinks money excuses betrayal. If that makes me the asshole, then maybe that's the price of choosing myself. I didn't just block my family. I broke a cycle. And I don't regret that. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Daily Tales Update for more such stories.